Kia ora, Walrus Watchers. So it's another video on retroactive jealousy. As you can probably guess, I'm down on the beach. Sun's gone in briefly, but it's been one of the hottest days so far. It's sort of still wintry really, but loads of people are hitting the beach today. So I'll give you a quick scan just to show you where I am. So it's not dirty, it's the sand here is black because it's volcanic sand from Mount Taranaki. So it's black in it, but it sparkles. It's got little sparkly bits in it, so it's kind of rather lovely, really. So retroactive jealousy. I want to talk about. So what I like to do is kind of talk about retroactive jealousy from lots of different perspectives and lots of different angles. Really, I try not to repeat myself with videos and keep kind of coming up with new helpful ways of looking at it. Really. Different angles and that kind of thing. So this came from, I have a troll to thank for this, because I posted something recently and somebody objected to me talking about retroactive jealousy because they thought that I was justifying the possessive and jealous tendencies of domestic violence perpetrators. And they were talking about male domestic violence perpetrators. Now this came off another thing which came up recently, and I did a video on this, so you might want to look this one up as well. The Sun newspaper, I use the word newspaper in inverted commas, did a featured retroactive jealousy briefly in their agony column, and people completely misunderstood this and were quite harsh towards the person that was suffering with the retroactive jealousy symptoms, okay? Because I think what people do is they do make some really harsh judgments against retroactive jealousy sufferers. And if you're a retroactive jealousy sufferer, you probably had this, or maybe you've even done this to yourself, judge yourself very harshly. But the important fact is that it is an illness, it is a condition, it's not an attitude or a moral failing. Okay. But is there a link between retroactive jealousy and domestic violence? Okay, and that's what I want to explore intelligently and not in a knee-jerk, judgmental way in this video. So, my throat's going a little bit here, so please bear with me. So yeah, this person that trolled me was very ignorant, refused to kind of listen to anything and started sending me information on domestic violence. It's just I Google domestic violence, and it's another one of my fields of work, and I'm actually a member of the Safe Taranaki Family Trust, which is all about kind of prevention of domestic violence. I've worked with domestic violence perpetrators. I've trained in working with domestic violence perpetrators. So this is something I know something about. Okay, so this isn't just kind of speculation. This is based on some professional knowledge. So. Yeah, okay, the similarity is, I guess, that people who are male perpetrators of domestic violence, and most perpetrators of domestic violence are male, but not all, and that's another thing that people overlook. A lot of perpetrators of domestic violence are female, and domestic violence is perpetrated not just among couples, or not just among kind of different gender couples, it's perpetrated among same-sex couples, and it's perpetrated intergenerationally. So you get children that hit their parents, and you get people that abuse the elder. So domestic violence is much broader than this picture of I think the stereotype of the wife beater is very unhelpful in this day and age. We know far more about it than that, and I'll probably talk about this some more in some other videos. We'll probably do some videos on domestic violence. But jealousy and possessiveness is certainly a feature of domestic violence. So let me come at this again from a different perspective. When I first decided to make services available for people with retroactive jealousy, I thought, well, how am I going to reach people? So I was looking at demographics, which is what you do, So what social class do people with retroactive jealousy come from? What gender do they come from? What age range do they come from? What race do they come from? What nation do they come from? And basically, we couldn't find anything. It's universal. Okay, and first thing, and I really need to hammer this point home among people that have prejudice and take prejudice against people with retroactive jealousy, is that it's something that affects women as much as it does men. Okay, so we're not looking at sexism, we're not looking at misogyny, we're not looking at a subset, something that's intrinsically linked with domestic abuse and sexual discrimination. Okay, but are there maybe some overlaps? We'll look at that in a second. So where did I get to all this? So basically what I and this isn't a tangent, by the way, this is going to weave smoothly back to the topic that I began with. So what I started to look at was, so this affects everybody, okay? So how am I going to reach people? And more to the point, maybe there's a difference between people who suffer with this condition and people who seek help for this condition, okay? So this is what I asked myself, who is likely to be seeking help for this condition? And the answer that I came up with is that people that are going to be seeking help from this condition are probably going to be more educated. They're probably going to be more conscientious and socially aware than the people that don't seek help for this condition. Because people that seek help from retroactive jealousy, like the person that was involved in this Letters to the Sun newspaper, are people that see that they have a problem. Okay, people come to me saying, I have a problem. I have these crazy thoughts. I know it's not rational, but I can't help myself. Okay, so they are people that have got a degree, and sometimes a very high degree of social awareness and social intelligence, if that's the phrase. They know that their views don't make sense. They're not people that are, particularly prejudiced or discriminatory. They're kind of often quite right on people, and what they feel and what's going on is at odds with their intellectual beliefs. Okay. So they're the people that come forward. And I think, well, who are the people that don't come forward? Okay. And there I wonder whether there might be some overlap with retroactive jealousy and people who perpetrate domestic violence. Because if you think that your partner is bad because they've had this sexual encounter or this relationship or that relationship, and you therefore you feel that you're perfectly at liberty to judge them, berate them and give them a hard time over that, then you're more likely to fall into that kind of similar category and similar demographics as the domestic abusers. Okay. So I suspect that there is some truth. I suspect that there is a degree of retroactive jealousy among people who are perpetrators of domestic violence, but the majority of the people the only people that are likely to say that they suffer from retroactive jealousy are the direct opposite. They're not that kind of person. Okay, so I think we have to be really careful here, and we have to really, and again, I can't say this enough. Retroactive jealousy affects women as much as it does men. Okay, so when people in the media see something about retroactive jealousy and they immediately kind of make judgments and see this as misogyny, women hating, sexual shaming, it's like, stop, show some compassion and look at this for what it is. This is an illness. This is a form of obsessive compulsive disorder, and it affects, I'm going to say it again, it affects women as much as it does men. Now, women commit domestic violence, but what we're talking about really is the stereotypes. And retroactive jealousy sufferers, male retroactive jealousy sufferers, I think, get a harder time. Okay. Female retroactive jealousy sufferers, people may not understand, but they're less likely to label, judge, and kind of harangue or troll female sufferers of retroactive jealousy. Okay. But male retroactive jealousy sufferers, get saddled with this stuff, and in some cases it's fair, because that is the case. But I think the people that say they have a problem with this, if somebody tells you they have a problem with this, the chances are they're not of the same kind of type of person that commits domestic violence. So I hope that kind of makes sense. If there's anything that's not clear in this, or if you've got any comments or thoughts, please add them in the description box below, or the comments box below. Let me know what you think. It's a delicate subject, a very controversial subject, a very touchy subject. I do have an interest. I would like to. I'm not currently working, for the most part, in domestic violence at the moment. I'm working more in sexual violence. But I would like to find out. I think it would be useful data to find out. What kind of RJ type thought processes do occur in people who are domestic violence perpetrators. But the key difference is buying into it and thinking that your beliefs are true, and knowing that your beliefs are not true and they're not accurate. And the majority of people all the people that present as retroactive jealousy sufferers are people that are at odds with their beliefs. So there's what's the phrase? It's ego-syntonic and ego-dystonic, I think, isn't it? So some things are consistent with what you. So if you've got a drink problem and you love drinking, that's ego-syntonic because you're actually enjoying what you're doing. It's consistent with your values and your beliefs and how you want to live your life. But if you've got a drink problem and you hate it, you just want to get out of it, that's ego-dystonic because it's at odds with your ego, with yourself, with your I. So retroactive jealousy, I guess, is the way to look at it. It's ego-dystonic because all the beliefs are at odds with every other part of you. There's a clash, there's a dissonance, there's a contradiction, there's a clash. So this is where kind of it can get quite complex, you know, and definitions and things. So you could argue that by nature, if you have a belief, if you have an obsession with your partner's past for which you blame them and make them bad, without reservation and without recognizing that that's a cognitive distortion of your own part, then could that even be retroactive jealousy? So maybe I've kind of come full circle in the course of this video in my thinking that perhaps by very nature, somebody who is the domestic violence, misogynistic kind of profile, even if they have similar beliefs, it's unlikely to be retroactive jealousy because it's ego-syntonic for them, whereas it's ego-dystonic for most of the people that will be watching this video right now. So, okay, long video, quite nuanced. I've kind of gone around in circles, thinking it through even as I speak. That's why it'd be great to hear your thoughts on this. I think the takeaway, you know, I'd like the takeaway to be really, don't judge. You know, if somebody is saying that they have issues and they have difficulties and they're struggling with their thoughts and feelings around their partner's past, then it's an illness, it's a problem, it's ego-dystonic and they need help. They are not a bad person with bad values that needs to be just told to get a grip, which is what the case was in his situation with the Sun newspaper. So, on that note, we're hanging about again.